Yeah, so when I pop back over here, and saw all these corpses. So of course I immediately constructed a couple graveyards, and it's clerics that are going to be burying those, so we want to make sure that we have a few temples, and we have some clerics assigned. Now we do have some soldiers and some cavalry, which is nice. We'll be able to form a battle standard and army once we have 1,000 leather and metal. Still having trouble getting that built up because we used it on a couple of the upgrades. We need about 40 leather, and then we'll be able to have farmers collecting more skins, which will help a good bit. We can help that along by rapidly clicking the food. Some citizens did get sick. Luckily I don't think there's any that are sick right now, but we might need some more healers. Of course we can do that by creating more apothecaries. And then we just have to assign a few people to them. Definitely don't need so many farmers. Alright, need 40 leather, so we're still missing some skins for that. But we're getting there, of course. And there we go. So now more skins are being found, which is going to help a lot. It's going to speed up that process. And we have houses now, which hold a little bit more people. But we're going to have to get enough soldiers built up and a battle-ready army soon, because that's under the conquest tab here, and we need that to start running conquest on a few other towns and villages and taking their land, because this 858 starts running out really quickly. That's the free amount of space that we have left. Oh, see that wolf popped up. And since we do have enough soldiers, a couple of them died in the process, but they protected the rest of the villagers from the wolves, and that's why you need your soldiers. You can always add a few back. And see, these trades pop up occasionally, but in the beginning, it's way too high. It's going to be, 3,000 something metal. We're not going to have that right now, but later on we will. So the only way we're going to get most of these upgrades that are along the way, the only way we're really going to do that is if we increase the stockpile amounts. So I'll usually do probably 10 at a time, and it may take a second to have enough to do it again, but we can at least do some singles. And we'll do that on the stone too once we have enough. Yeah, and so now that we actually do have a surplus of skins and ore, I talked about that in the last stream for CivClicker. Now that we do actually have a surplus of those, now is when we want to actually add in more tanneries and smitheries. Tanneries and smithies. We'll add a few of those, like so. And then we'll add some villagers to man those shops. Making sure that our food's staying at a positive rate, and it is. And this is dropping, you know, that's not going to affect us a lot, but it's going to push this quicker. And we're waiting for our piety to jump up. It's gonna take a moment. Additional temples will help that build up, so we might want to throw some of those in the mix here pretty soon. And add some clerics. And remember, for our conquest to get started, we're going to have 1,000 leather and 1,000 metal. We're not quite there yet. But once we have both of those met, then we can actually start conquest and capturing other towns, which will be good. Because we need their land so we can build our empire appropriately. And as we're getting a little bit closer to that, I'm gonna actually get some more apothecaries set up, and I feel we need to do that because we need more healers, obviously. 55,000 wood. We don't have that, but we do need to up our max so that we can get anywhere close to that. We're almost at 1,000 metal. Leather's taking a second longer. That's okay. Won't be too long now. Yeah, so now that we're up to 1,000 of both, we're going to start an army. Now the thing with the army is that, and this is kind of interesting, basically, the thing with the army is that we need to leave some behind. You know, you'll find that if you take all of your soldiers and cavalry, and you just go conquest, people will start dying left and right because they're left undefended back at the town. So we don't want that. Can't have that happening. So we do have to leave some behind. We got about, what, 700 people now? Now, one thing that's interesting is to raid, say, like the Thorpe down the road, you really don't need that many people. I mean, even the, 10 soldiers you take with you, it'll slay their 10 soldiers pretty quick, and you can plunder their resources. And it does give you a little bit of land, so each time we do this, I say we only lost 1 soldier that time. Each time we do this, we got, what, 10 free land, somewhere around there. If we add some cavalry in, that'll help. But yeah, let's go ahead and raid Hamlet. And what's really cool is that while you're battling, if if you notice your team's not doing too great, you can throw a few more in there to help overcome, kind of like a secondary push that they didn't see coming, which is really sweet. I like that feature. That time I got 30 free land, so that gives us a little more room to build on without overcrowding our people, and lets us build a little more and have a little higher max population, which is of course something we would like. I'm saying you really are going to want to have a number of apothecaries. You don't need them very often, but I think the problem is that when you do need them, you really do need them. Like, it's really important. So you can see I'm recruiting a lot of farmers right now, which isn't necessarily necessary. I just like to really get that maxed out if I can, so that it's just I have some to spare, and I can take them off there and assign them to other jobs. Like I can add these apothecary workers as I need to, things like that. Definitely need some more miners. It's harder to pull rock from the ground versus cutting down trees. So we need more miners than woodcutters normally, as you can see here. And definitely going to add some soldiers and cavalry. Keep some around and then some assigned as part of your army. That's what I would do. And we can upgrade a couple things here. We're going to raid a hamlet, which didn't have too many soldiers. But yeah, basically we just want to leave some soldiers and cavalry behind. And you'll kind of get a feel for how many you should leave behind based on your total population. But when we go raiding, we don't want to leave them undefended. And remember about these mills, because the main thing that you're always kind of battling is having enough food, at least in the beginning. So mills is one of the upgrades that you can keep making that improves the farmer's output. It just gets a little harder to make the upgrade each time. It goes up to 700 stuff, and then 800 of the resources, and then 900, and it keeps increasing. But when you do have enough to do those, you should, so that your food is easily in surplus. So we're rocking along pretty good. Free land can still go pretty quick, so make sure you're sticking on the conquests. Free up some people to throw down for soldiers. See, our food production's still in surplus, so it's cool if we pull some of the farmers away and add them in as soldiers. That is perfectly fine. And then we're gonna raid this hamlet, and you can kind of watch the battle here. And once we get a few more of these upgrades, we'll actually be able to build siege engines and things like that, which will make the raids a lot quicker and easier. Yeah, I really like this CivClicker. This is a version I found, I think, linked on a GitHub site. I mean, there is the original one, which isn't quite as graphical interface here like this one is. There's the original, like the version 1.1, if you search for CivClicker. But I like this version that others have come up with. It was open source to begin with, so the author didn't mind others messing with it. So just kind of keeping an eye on everything. The events are important here. I don't see any wolves or anything like that attacking, which means we've got enough soldiers. We can probably throw some more into our army just fine. I'm going to try to raid the village and see what happens. Awesome. And we've got some more corpses stacking up. So when you do see that happen, make sure you have enough graveyards. Because there may not be enough laying around. You can see our unfilled graves are filling back up there. So we might get a couple extra graveyards just in case. Now that we've got a little extra free land again, I'm going to throw like 100 cottages out there. And then just add as many citizens as I can as farmers. We can add some back in as soldiers. I'm going to improve our soldiers while we're at it. And so let's say we want to start worshiping. We need 1,000 piety. And to increase our piety generation, we need 500 skins. So to grab skins, we need them to stop making leather. So we're going to remove all the tanners, and that'll let our skins start stacking up. Remember, the skins are also being found by farmers, so if we can add some extra farmers in for a moment, that does help. But it's already rocking along at 9 skins they're finding a second, so not a huge deal, I wouldn't think. So as soon as that's up, we're going to go ahead and hit writing upgrade. And I'm also going to add some shields for our soldiers so that they'll just be pretty badass. And we do want to keep upgrading things like our barns, because when one of those traders comes along, we actually do want to grab one of those events. The problem is having enough when it pops up. Like this one, we don't have that much leather, but let's make sure that we do have enough healers. Let's make sure that we have enough clerics in the temples. We really need the healers. The clerics are going to help with piety generation, and we're going to need that for our deity, which can help with a lot of things. Just having the deity that you're worshiping. To get started, it takes 1,000 piety, so we're waiting for that to build up, of course. But we definitely want healers, and we want clerics generating that piety. That is important. About 2 piety a second, which is good. They're in there praying their little prayers, and that's helping us along. do love some RuneScape. It's been a long time since I really played, but I do really enjoy it. Epilogue. Seems we may now be able to claim the sword. Alright, we almost have enough so we can start worshipping our deity. So now we can start worshipping our deity. So let's say we want good old Moloch. And then we have to wait till we have another 500 piety, and we can worship the god of battle, fields, underworld, cats. There's a number of things there. Now I remember something about zombies. I've never experienced that. I'm not sure what's up. That might have something to do with the underworld. And I don't really know if there's a benefit or not a benefit from it. I think I'm going to do fields. Because I feel like, food is kind of the key to everything else. Or maybe battle. But probably fields, I think, is where I'm going to go with it. See if that helps food production or something. I don't want to start overcrowding everyone. So now we've also upgraded to a large town. You'll see those achievements kind of hopping along the way. So I'm going to steal a couple of these cavalry, and we're going to raid a hamlet again. Try a village this time. And so every time you do win one of these conquests, you get this. Like this time I got 200 free land, and you really need that going forward to keep your people from being overpopulated. They get less happy when that happens, and they start getting sick more often. And it's hard for the healers to keep up with all that crap. See, now we have 1,400 free land, which gives us some room to grow on if we want to add, say, 100 more cottages. Or wooden huts or tents. Which lets us add all these crazy, insane numbers of people into our farming population, and we're going to spread them out into the other professions here in a moment. I think we're going to get a few more tanneries, smithies, And we'll add some apothecaries and temples here in a moment as well. Remember the tanners and the smithies both, they're kind of dependent on this stuff coming in. But you can see my over surplus of skins. So, that really means that I could stand to have a few more tanners that are kind of tackling that as it's coming in. There's definitely no issue with that. We want this to be draining or 0, and the ore as well. But the ore is pretty stuck, so I'll probably end up adding a number of miners to see if we can kind of even that out a bit. And we know we always need more soldiers, no matter what. And so to keep up our soldier population, so we have enough to throw into the armies to go raiding. Oh, hey, our deity might be ready. And here, I'm going to pick the deity of fields. I've done battle before. I want to see what fields grants us. It looks like we got to build an altar once we have enough piety again. Once we do that, we'll have to see what special things we get. And we can get some more buildings and such when we hit 10,000 of wood and stone again. And mathematics says we can create siege engines. Now those can come along with your armies. You can't send them by themselves, but they do have to come with an army. And those will help your raids quite a bit, help your conquests. I'm just adding to the soldiers here. You can see wolves start attacking more often, and sometimes they're in bigger and bigger groups. So you really got to have some soldiers and cavalry sitting around to squash that. And you can see, since I have this over surplus of food, I'm stealing some citizens from the farms and redistributing them in other areas. Wow. So to raid a small town, we're going to need a good bit larger number, bigger army. Probably want to try to get those siege engines as well. Looks like we need piety to be able to do that. That's okay though. We'll get there. See, my people are blissful. They're doing pretty good. So we're trying to get the piety up to 1,000 again. Got more than enough herbs, but then we'll be able to create siege engines, and that should let us raid these small towns that we were having trouble with. And in the meantime, I want to make sure that we have enough cavalry and soldiers. But I think they had about 300 total, and I don't know if we're going to have that amount at the moment. Raiding villages seems to be pretty straightforward, but as soon as you get to small town, they've really bumped it up with notch or two. Notch on the belt, something like that. But even just from raiding the villages, we are getting a large number of free land. I mean, paid for with our soldiers' lives, but it's getting there. Free land is great. It's going to keep our people happy, and they're not going to get sick as often. When they start hitting that overcrowded state, then they start having trouble with sickness. Yeah, so our piety is back up. So now we should be able to make this upgrade where we can create siege engines, and those will end up under conquest. You'll see them here. They need 200 wood apiece, 50 leather, 50 metal, and it can help destroy enemy fortifications. Definitely helpful if they have any. And that's one of our next upgrades too. Once we get back up to 10,000 wood and stone, we should be able to... That was a large wolf attack. We start to get corpses stacked up again. Let me add some graveyards here. But yeah, once we get our wood back up to around 10k, then we should be able to build a few more things like fortifications. Alright, so now that we have more buildings we can build, we'll see that we have some fortifications. So that's definitely helpful. We definitely want those up. And I'm going to throw a couple mills in here. And the mills really boost the farmer output. So we can drop back the number of farmers significantly. Which is awesome, because they can be thrown towards other things, like becoming soldiers. Or they can help with cutting wood or anything else, really. Add a lot more cavalry, clerics. What are the upgrades we got here? Collect ore more frequently and skins. I think both of that would be really good. This is going to let us cram 2 more workers into houses. That might not help with overcrowding, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. We still got a lot of free land, luckily. That allows us to add a large number of people. I really got to bump up our top our stockpiles, because some of those traders we could actually do the trades if we had that maxed out all the way, or at least much higher. That was pretty sweet. We got about 2,000 more free land just from raiding that small town. But it does take a good bit to do that. So the more we're increasing the mills, the more we can pull back some farmers, which is great. I'm going to train up some more soldiers to fight off the bandits. Gotta have those ready on standby for certain. Build some more altars, although I'm not sure why, because so far the fields haven't really opened anything special for us that I can see. We're really decreasing the amount of farmers that we need, which is pretty sweet. happens. Of course, that happened in real life as well once we discovered better and better agriculture technology. And people are still blissful, they're not overcrowded. We're building a nice little city here. Yeah, we're gonna upgrade how much our stockpiles can hold because we want to be able to trade next time someone comes through. It's a lot of cavalry. Oh, okay. So here's our first Pantheon upgrade. Bam. And again, we can decrease the number of farmers, which is nice. And that frees up citizens for other things.